a downward trend up until 2018, and you can see the trend now popping back up, coming up. What we did in 2019 with the room nights, we generated right at 6,000 room nights last year. The sales were at about $625,000. We had 22,000 in attendance, and our estimated impact was $3.9 million. So you can, like I said, see that trend that's popping back up in the right direction. This is our schedule for 2020 at this point. This is just spring and summer. We're currently negotiating 7 dates. These are all the dates that we have available minus about 2. With UF football, Pepsi Relays, Gator Nationals, those types of events where there's no hotel rooms in place, we've got about 3 weekends that we didn't hit this year in January that baseball and softball season actually exists. We've now partnered up with USAF, United States Association for Fast Pitch. They're going to do some really nice things with us, and again, you can see the Babe Ruth, actually that should be state. The World Series is a new qualifier, and we're bringing back the Babe Ruth State Tournament this year for the first time in several years. We've also been able to throw in some, like the All-Star Classic that you see down towards the bottom. We're bringing in some local types of events. They still create an impact for Newberry, but we're also getting our local kids in the park to where they have an opportunity to play in tournament quality type facilities. And the interesting thing that's going on, those 7 dates that are we're negotiating, we're now getting to where we're bringing in different organizations. Now the big boys like USSSA and PGF softball, they are now committing to more dates to block the new organizations coming in, to hold the space when it comes to the competition. So we're getting very close to us having a little bit of leverage of bringing teams in to our terms instead of us to their terms. And then the next step, for example, USAF softball, they'll take about 8 fields. That's 8 fields empty. So now we can start leveraging back to be able to start backfilling and having baseball and softball running at the same time to fill the park up. So as we add dates and make the competition a lot tougher for these guys to book, we're putting ourselves in a really good situation. So the expectations for 2020 as we mend those bridges, the projections for this coming year, we're looking at doubling just about every number. We're looking at about 10,000 room nights. It would put us at $1.1 million in sales. Total attendance, we're looking at about 40,000 for a total impact of $7.1 million. So with that said, we're going to try to show one more video. Before we show it, Amy, so USAF, they came to us and they brought their representative out of Texas. That's where their national office is. So what we're working on, the reason why we created this video is they came to us and they want to get us into the collegiate spring break market. And hopefully that's going to happen in 2021 to where they're bringing college teams from up north into the park for a week to train in the morning and play games in the afternoon. So they wanted some type of a video that they could take to the Collegiate National Coaches Conference, and this is what we put together for them.
Same thing, really cool music.
Really cool music. You can go on our website if you want to pick it up. You can hear or on the Facebook page. One of the questions was what could they do for team building, and we worked with Visit Gainesville to do what you'll see on the tubing and the springs and that type of stuff for the teams to be able to get out and do some team building and bonding. And as I understand, it was very well received, and they're excited about trying to get this program kicked off in 2021 to, again, where where we're bringing in these colleges Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. They'll vacate out Friday morning, and then we'll have bookend tournaments on the end. So now we're starting to get into the midweek type stuff to be able to even add more, and also for long-term stays. So the very first tournament that we ran, I got the pleasure of meeting the manager from Hardee's. She came out and was like, what in the world's going on? We're getting hammered. We're running out of food. We don't have enough staff. We heard from Newberry, from Subway the same way. And so we made sure that we got around and talked to the local restaurants to make sure that they knew how to get onto our website and see the schedule so that they could plan properly. Angela at Hardee's, before she makes her schedule every week, she calls me or texts me and say, hey, what's going on at the park, so I know how to set the schedule. This was a text that I received from her during the PGF. What time's the last game? I replied, start at 8:30 tonight. They start in the morning at 8. Most games will end by 4. Okay, thank you. You guys busy? Getting murdered. LOL. I guess that's good in my sales so far today, and they're setting record sales for breakfast with those coming in. So that's the type of communication that we're having back and forth with some of the restaurants and some of the businesses. The Shed Store is doing a really good job of helping us with golf cart rentals and trying to really back us up and get what we need there. So the strategies we talked about for the most part of it, coming up. We're going to continue working. We're getting some favorable help from the city based on the restricted reserve funds that are available. Fixing the backstops, and again, putting itself in a better position in the market. Bringing in new organizations. We talked about USAF and the collegiate spring break, and then continuing partner with the Gainesville Sports Commission. And big bridge that we mended was with Visit Gainesville and getting them to understand how we can cooperate with the arts and the museums and those types of people to cross market to be able to benefit that. Working with the Hospitality Council, we just did a presentation there, very favorable. And then now we've also made inroads with the Florida Sports Foundation into their grant program. We're receiving $4,500 for the PGF event. That PGF event had 65 teams, 18 states. We had California, New York, New Jersey, Texas, Ohio, Minnesota, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, all in to compete in that tournament. So with that said, that's what we got up to this time, and entertain any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Richard. That was a great presentation. What was the tournament that you had out there this last weekend?
So this past weekend was the PGF, they call it the PGF Gator Day. We had 55 teams, 6 teams from Georgia, all the rest of them are from Florida, and they sent over 1,800 coaches, parents, and kids to the UF Auburn.
It was packed.
UF Auburn softball series. Some of them went on Friday night, and then some of them went on Saturday night based on their schedule, and a ton of them went on Sunday. So again, that's some of the marketing that we're doing back and forth with UAA, to throw those carrots. The January event with PGF, last year they had 18 teams. They got a World Series qualifier nod, so any teams that won that event could go straight to California for the World Series. They had 18 teams last year. They had 65 this year, with all those teams coming from all over the country for a chance to qualify direct to the World Series. So again, throwing some carrots out there. We're giving them some incentives based on our side to be able to get them in here and get them anchored in. PGF has now added a showcase, their Florida State tournament. They had 4 tournaments last year. They're doing 7 this year. They're so happy with the park and everything that's going on.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate how much you're working with the local restaurants to communicate with them and help them coordinate. I appreciate how much you're working with the neighbors right around you to keep all of the traffic coming in on the park property. Any questions from the dais?
I just got a comment.
Commissioner Cole.
Yeah, the last 2 tournaments, well, this one this weekend, I noticed that there's no cars out there, which has really worked out great. because that neighbor was having a problem with it, but I noticed they all got a handle on that pretty quick.
Well, one of the things that, to address that, happened to us a second tournament last year, and it's that one PGF tournament, and man, you go out there, there's not a blade of grass between girls warming up and cars parked, and man, it's just packed. But what we've done is, when we're not using all the fields, we now use the 2 center quads, because it makes more sense to park, right? So you don't park all the way on one end and play in quad 1. So I'm encouraging all the tournament directors that come in, say, let's forget about the number of fields, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and that you got to start on 1. Let's start on 5, and then work our way back, and then backfill back in quad 1 to help try to alleviate some of that. So we're looking at logistics of how to better park, how to better get people in, how to stay out of the highway, and all that type of stuff. And again, the tournament directors have been awesome, listening, once we got a comfort level of that. And so, yeah, anytime there's an issue, Rick, you called me. Unfortunately, I was in Atlanta, but was able to get back to my guys, and we got that squared away.
Well, anytime you're bringing enough people into the park that you're spilling out of the park, that's a good problem to have. We want to work with that kind of problem. Any other questions from the dais? All right. Thank you so
guys.
much.
Really
We appreciate you coming and giving us the update. All right. And Mr. Thomas, you want to come talk to us about the Planning and Zoning Historical Architectural Review Board seats?
Sir, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Evening, Commissioners. Tonight, not asking you to make a choice, but we are presenting the applications. As of April 30th, we have 2 positions expiring for the Planning and Zoning / Historic Architectural Review Boards. Just as a reminder, in 2019, the Commission directed that the members of the Planning and Zoning Board would also serve as members of the HARB. Like I said, effective April 30th, there will be 2 seats expiring, current members that terms expire. And so the opening seats were advertised both in Alachua County Today. We did an email blast to all of the subscribers that the city has, which is a pretty extensive list, and then it was posted at City Hall. And so this year we're fortunate to have 5 excellent applications. 2 of them are the sitting members that would like to continue to serve, and 1 is from a previously serving member that's now on the HARB, and the other 2 are from residents that have shown an interest and have good qualifications. So we got 5 good applications this year. And this is just a review under the land development regulations of the composition of the board. Like I said, we have 5 appointed members of the Planning and Zoning Board that also serve on the Historic Architectural Review Board. Those are the 2 seats that are open this time, the joint seats. And then the Commission also last year added the 2 optional seats to the HARB. Those aren't up yet. And so the recommended action tonight is just to take the applications that are in the packet and review them, if you would, until the next Commission meeting on the 23rd. And then on the 23rd, we'll ask you to appoint 2 members to serve for a 3-year term, and then this time we're also asking if you could appoint a alternate to fill a seat in case one of the sitting board members has to step down for any reason. And that would give us somebody that we could move right into the seat without having to come back before the board for an additional appointment.
Okay, Mr. Thomas, you looking for that in a motion? That it'll be time certain that the Commission will decide on this, or are you just updating us that on March 23rd we'll need to have this decision made?
We'll bring it back on
So
March
you guys
23rd.
have the applications in your packet, you can review them. Are we ranking, are the commissioners ranking who they want, and then we narrow it down from there, or are we coming back
We
on
can,
the 23rd
prior
and
to that
hashing it
meeting,
out?
we'll provide the ranking sheets like we did last
Okay,
time.
perfect.
Yes, sir.
All right, any questions for Mr. Thomas on that? Okay, thank you, sir. We appreciate it. Okay, we'll move to our new item 3, which is an update from our opioid task force. We have a few of the task force members here. If you would join me down at the dais. I should say up at the dais. Come on here, we'll present a united front. Dang, you guys are so intimidating up there. Yeah. My goodness. Yeah, yeah. Well, welcome. And if you recall, about a year to a year and a half ago, you chartered Newberry's very first opioid task force. Since then, these folks have been working tirelessly. Every single month they have been meeting, and we wanted to come here and present our strategy, their ideas and their concept to you as a united front. And we have almost everybody here. We are missing Miss Kathy, who's also missing from the picture. So she's a great behind-the-scenes planner, and we love her for that. If we could just go down the line and introduce yourselves to the commission, and we'll start down here with Ms. Whitney.
I'm Whitney Spalacy.
I'm Sherry Jones.
I'm Jordan Marlowe.
Mark Modis.
Joy Glander.
So these guys are your frontline defense to this issue. And as you guys know, Alachua County has one of the highest rates of opioid addiction in the state of Florida. It is particularly high among adolescents in Alachua County, which is why you chartered this board to see what could be done and to try to stem that tide. Since you chartered this board, they have created a website, they have raised funds, they have created 2 videos that have helped to raise awareness. Those videos in total have been seen by over 50,000 people in this area, which brings everyone's attention to this issue. And if you don't know, I'm not sure if it's my next slide or not, our motto is moving from silence to solutions. And with opioids in particular, we have to combat this concept that it is a shameful thing that you need to hide and you have to keep it inside your family. Don't tell anybody, don't talk about it. And that's where the motto comes from. We have to break that concept of we need to be quiet about this. We have to realize that when you do start talking about it, you realize how many people this has affected and how many people are hurting here. And then at that point, we can move towards the solution. So we've been gathering together at our Little Red Schoolhouse and coming up with a strategy for Newberry. And our mission statement is pretty simple. We want to raise awareness to prevent opioid abuse in the city of Newberry. That word prevention is very important. We are not in this fight to be a rehabilitation. We are in this fight to prevent it from the beginning. That means that we have to be guided by the data, and the data that largely comes out of HPW is showing that children are experimenting with opioid usage as early as 5th grade. Now that has guided our strategy. So what we would like to do is partner with the city of Newberry to raise the funds, go after grants, and partner with Newberry Elementary School to turn Newberry Elementary School into a Rad Kids program. One of the stigmas when it comes to this fight is that it's not my kids, right? There's a problem. President Trump has addressed it. We know that over 400,000 people have died from opioid overdose in the last 20 years, but it's never my children, and we understand that. And if we want to talk to 2nd graders, 3rd graders, and 4th graders to try to prevent this problem, we have to do it in a holistic way. Rad Kids is a program that seeks to empower children. It's not specific to drug abuse. It is a program that helps kids learn how to say no, learn how to recognize that they're in danger, and gives them the ability to recognize that danger and then seek help. So we are not asking Newberry Elementary School to focus specifically on any drug. We are asking Newberry Elementary School, and they have already agreed to do so, to help build up and empower a child to stand up against bullying, child abuse, neglect, any substance abuse. And that is our first tiered strategy. Once we have successfully made Newberry Elementary School a Rad Kids program, and we have data showing its effectiveness, then our intention is to go to other cities, to the school board itself, and ask to implement this countywide. We also have friends in Tallahassee that are watching what we're doing and have every expectation that we end up in Tallahassee seeking for this to grow bigger and bigger and bigger. So I believe that leads us to our next step. We want to invite the commission April 25th. We're going to start right here on Newberry City Lawn, and we're going to have a walkathon to help raise that awareness. We have partnered with KISS 105.3 and listen for it. We just filmed some commercials over there. No, not filmed, recorded them, my bad. And I wore a jacket just to make sure I have a face for radio. So it's, we were just over there recording some commercials. They have partnered with us, which is incredible. They're going to do some PSAs for us to help. So on April 25th at 10 o'clock, we're going to gather here. We've partnered with the Newberry Lions Club. They're going to provide a pancake breakfast that is free of charge. It's for donations. So you can come and you can eat some pancakes and then slowly walk off those pancakes as we talk to each other, share stories, help raise that awareness. We hope you guys can join us. KISS 105.3 will be here. All the opioid task force members will be here as well. And with that, we just want to remind you that when we work together, we can move from silence to solutions. And I'm available to answer any questions, but I'd rather you point the questions to the board because they've been doing the work. I'm just been tasked with presenting the information. So, and Commissioner Coleman, since you're now the mayor pro tem, you can call on yourself.
Rick Colden. Is that you or me? I've had 3 family members affected by opioids and lost one. April 25th, if I'm still the commissioner, I will be in Daytona for the advanced EMO school. But I'm going to challenge this dais that because I'm not going to be there, and I'm not saying they got to, but I'll donate $300 to start it off. I can't be there to do the walking and all that, but I'm going to do that.
Thank you.
All right.
Sir. We appreciate that
No
so
pressure.
much.
No
Yes.
pressure.
We will, that gets you a bronze level sponsorship at the Stride from Silence to Solutions, and we will definitely absolutely recognize you as such. Are there any other questions? Any other questions that we can? If not, thank you guys so much. All right, and now we have more wonderful news for the city of Newberry. We have, and he's already taken them. I don't even get a chance to present them to him. All right, go ahead, Dallas. Tell us about the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting.
Yes,
Because
sir,
we are
Mr.
proud of you and all the folks that helped you.
If you haven't heard already, which I'd be surprised if you hadn't, because we've been putting it everywhere and I haven't stopped talking about it.
Well, they all listened to the State of the City address.
Exactly.
And it was so.
And read the Newberry News on our Facebook page and listen to me constantly talk about our award. As the commission knows, we recently completed our first comprehensive annual financial report last year for fiscal year 18. We submitted that financial report to the Government Finance Officers Association for its award. We were lucky enough to receive the award. And we have a video from the Government Finance Officers Association that explains the award.
And it's coming.
Greetings from the Government Finance Officers Association. I'm Chris Morrow, CFO Executive Director. It's my honor to announce that the City of Newberry, Florida has won the DFWA's Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting for its 2018 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. This represents the first year that the City of Newberry has won a certificate, demonstrating your commitment to preparing an annual financial report that is organized, readable, and transparent. Being the high standards required to win this award is a mark of distinction for which you can be very proud. With this achievement, the City of Newberry joins with only a small percentage of U.S. local governments that have won this prestigious award. I congratulate the Mayor, Jordan Marlowe, the Director of Finance and Administration, Dallas Lee, and the entire staff of the city. To learn more about DFOA and about this and our other award programs, please visit us at dfoa.org. Thank you and congratulations again on this impressive achievement.
Well done. Can we put that video on the city's Facebook page?
Absolutely.
Please do. It's something we want to brag about. Are you moving straight to the,
I will move.
hang on, don't do that yet, because we got to get a picture. Normally, I hand those to people.
Well, you want to hand me the other one? Because they send us multiple.
That might be a little awkward. There we go. All right. All right. And you're gonna
Stack them out here.
stack up the awards. I like that. Stack up the awards. All right, Dallas, now tell us about the Government Finance Professionals Week.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Traditionally, the city of Newberry has recognized International Accounting Day in November. However, this year, the GFOA and the FGFOA, which is the Florida Government Finance Officers Association, is working together to have a week of recognition for the finance professionals who work in government. The city of Newberry has 3 people in its finance department who work every day, ensuring the highest of standards for your taxpayers' dollars. So this proclamation aims to recognize them for the week of March 16th through 20th, which is next week. The proclamation should be attached to this. It's an attachment.
Let me make sure. I will read it. Do you
I
have
have it here if you want
I'll read it in. 2. All right. Whereas the Florida Government Finance Officers Association is a professional association founded in 1937 and serves more than 3,300 professionals from state, county, and city governments, school districts, colleges and universities, special districts, and private firms. And whereas the FGFOA is dedicated to being a professional resource providing opportunities through education, networking, leadership, and information. And whereas this inaugural Government Finance Professionals Week, sponsored by the FGFOA and all of its members' governmental organizations, is a week-long series of activities aimed at recognizing government finance professionals and the vital services that they provide to our state and community. And whereas during this week, government finance professionals throughout the state of Florida will be acknowledged for their hard work, dedication, and leadership. Now, therefore, I, Jordan Marlowe, as mayor, do hereby proclaim March 16th through 20th, 2020 as Government Finance Professionals Week in the city of Newberry and extend our appreciation to all government finance professionals throughout the state and here in the city of Newberry for their hard work, dedication, and leadership. Duly proclaimed this 9th day of March 2020 by myself, Jordan Marlowe, Mayor, and attested to by the Clerk of the City Commission of the City of Newberry, Florida, Judy S. Rice, City Clerk. Now, therefore, let it be proclaimed. Well done, Dallas. Before you leave, we've said a lot about the Certificate of Achievement in Excellence and financial reporting, but I have to say every single year that you've been handling it, the awards just keep piling up, right? I don't know if there's an award that is higher than this award, but there's an expectation that you'll create it next year, and we'll make a whole other category just for the city of Newberry. But truly, well done, well done. When we can have transparency in the books, all the rest of our job becomes a whole lot easier because we can always point to the books and show people where their tax dollars are going, what they're being spent on, and at the end of the day, that's the most important function that we serve, and you make that service a whole lot easier. So thank you so much for doing that.
Mr. Mayor, I'd
Mr.
like
Manager?
just to offer a comment. It's in the staff report, but not everybody has privy to the staff report. Just to highlight the significance of this award. There are a little over 31,000 cities in the United States with a population less than 10,000. We're about 6,500, and 1% of those receive this recognition. So that is some rare air. This has been a goal of our finance director since I started working here. He sets a really high bar, and it wasn't that we didn't receive it the prior years. There's a tremendous amount of effort that goes into getting the data pulled together for that first year. And then after that, it kind of falls a little bit easier. And all of that effort is not just stuff that finance directors want to read. It's actually the type of data that this commission and our community wants to see that shows all the trends. And so in the future, when we're reporting our CAFR to you, rather than some of the obscure matrices of information that we give you, there's going to be some more tangible trends with it that I think the average layperson may have a better handle on. So I just want to highlight what an extreme effort. It's really been led by the finance department, but you don't get awards for significance in financial reporting without every member of your team, from the supervisors that are returning invoices to the right people and getting them over to the finance department so that we can get them paid on time, and then we have all those records available. This is an all hands on deck award that the leadership starts in finance and accounting, where they stress the importance of us, and they always tell us the why behind the what. So it's not just a bunch of rules. These are the reasons why we have these rules, and this certificate is an indicator of how well done our finance department leads us in this area. So thank you, Finance Department. Dallas, appreciate your leadership.
Always good to be in the 1%. All right, that's going to move us to public announcements. These are the non-controversial 2-minute types. If you got something going on in town, a lost dog, something like that. If you have something more controversial, we have a longer period at the end of the evening. Seeing nothing from the public, I have one, and it's just a reminder that our qualifying season is about to end. It ends at 12 o'clock on Thursday, this Thursday, so that gives you a couple of days left. At this point, we have qualified for Group 1, incumbent Ricky Coleman. We have qualified for Group 2, Walt Boyer and Joy Glanzer. And we have qualified for Group 3, incumbent Monty Farnsworth. The actual election will take place on April 14th. It will only have one election site, which is our municipal building, from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. We will be there. That's Precinct 6. Everybody for local elections goes to the municipal building. There's only one site. You'll have those 3 seats, those 3 groups that you will vote on, and then you will also have the ability to vote yay or nay on the charter revision referendum that will also be on the ballot. I do have some videos that will be aired pretty soon about what's in those charter revisions so that people can study up on them. We've posted 1 or 2 at this point in time, so those are on the city's YouTube channel. Don't forget, and don't confuse, we have the Florida primary, which is next Tuesday. For that one is run by the Alachua County Supervisor of Elections. We'll have both voting sites open. If you live on the south side of 26, you vote at the Methodist Church. If you live on the north side of 26, you will vote at the municipal building. The city of Newberry is not involved in those elections. The Alachua County, I'm sure we provide some supplemental support, but Alachua County Supervisor election runs those. Public notices have been placed in 5 spots around town: City Hall, Newberry Branch Library, Hitchcock's Market, the Newberry Post Office, and the Martin Luther King Jr. Community Center. And of course, it is posted on the website as well. I want to remind the commissioners that if your seat is not up or you are not running again, you are automatically a member of the canvassing board. The canvassing board has 3 requirements. So even after Election Day, you are still a member of the canvassing board, Commissioner McKinley. One more duty. On April 2nd, we will meet at the municipal building for the logic and accuracy testing of voting equipment. On April 14th, Election Day, Commissioner McKinley, Commissioner Martin, Commissioner Norfleet need to report to City Hall at 6 p.m. And we will be here as long as it takes to count and verify all of the votes. And then at a date, most likely April the 14th in the evening, we will meet one last time, and we, what's the word, Miss Judy? We Certify, thank you. We certify the results. Wednesday, April 5th, we'll certify the results. So if you are, those 3 seats, the mayor is the chair of the canvassing board, but I don't have a vote, and the clerk certainly sits there and makes sure that we do it all right and offers her expertise and guidance. And book closing. Where's that in my notes here? Number 4. Book closing for municipal election is Monday, March 16th at 5 p.m. Okay? Are there any questions about any of those dates, timelines from the public? Does the commission have any questions about those? Commissioner Martin.
Jude, do you have a time for certifying the ballot on the 15th already?
We do not. We have it
Following day?
as an evening so that people can get out of work and then get there.
Okay.
But
And
that
that's
might be
not
better to-
the swearing in per se, though, right?
The next day. Yeah, are we sure we're going to announce that date right now? I thought it was undetermined for the...
It's undetermined due
Okay.
to the new statute, because if there are any signatures that need to be cured, the electors have 48 hours after the polls close to cure them. We don't usually have more than 2 or 3. It probably won't change the results of, but I don't think we should swear in until after that 48 hours. But we have to meet to formally certify the ballots within 36 hours.
And that meeting after really doesn't take that long, so we'll get that information to you so you can plan on it. I know some people may have to preach Wednesday night or lead Bible study Wednesday night. And don't forget that one of the suggestions for revision in our charter is that we align our swearing in with state statute, which puts it at no less than 10 days after the election. So if the charter passes, we would need to wait 10 days before we swear in anyway. We may be able to slip this one in under the old charter, but moving forward it'd be 10 days. But we'll figure out that third canvassing board meeting and get back to you as soon as we can. Commissioner McKinley. April 2nd, and that will be that's a Thursday. That's at 1 o'clock, and that is the logic and accuracy testing of voting equipment. It's going to show up on your calendar as from 1 to 2:30. I've sat on multiple of these, and they've never taken more than 20 or 30 minutes, and that's with some milling around time. But you never know. April 14th is the election day. We need you here at 6 o'clock, and I do mean in City Hall chambers. So the canvassing board will meet here. Elections will be taking place over at the municipal building. As the results come in, we'll do our work over here, and then we'll go back to the municipal building to announce. Both locations will be open to the public. And then the third date is the one we're going to get back to you on. And we may need some legal advice about if the charter passes. Does it take immediate effect this year for the swearing in? You'll figure that out another time.
It likely does not.
Right. Okay. So that means we would have the ability to schedule it when it works for us. Okay, that does it for my public comment. Any other public comments now that we've gone through all of that? Hearing none, we'll move to
Mr.
our...
Mayor?
Yes, Commissioner Farnsworth.
You went over your 2 minutes, sir.
I think Commissioner Martin asked me a question, that
You
started my
wrote
clock
that.
over. Okay, we'll move to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as it has been published? I have a motion from Commissioner Coleman, second from Commissioner Martin. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Motion passes unanimously, and we are on to public hearings and ordinances. Dallas, you're back up with a budget update. You found an extra $1 million.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Commissioners. As you know, at the end of each quarter, we come before you with a budget update. This time it's a quarter plus, so we're actually going through the end of January because it's already March. So at the end of January, we were 33.33% repeating through the year. Overall, we are on budget, which is good to say. In your general fund, we've collected 53.8% of revenues, which is pretty common for this time of the year. We get all of our property tax revenue in November and December. That's when they're due. As far as 71% in your local taxes. We're also high in your license permits and fees. That's related to your fire assessment, also due at the same time as property taxes, and your building permits. And just so you know, last year at this time in local taxes, you were at 69.3%, and in license permits and fees, you were about 52%. So you're pretty close on both of those. In your general fund expenditures, all of your cost centers are on target or below target, with the exception of non-departmental. Non-departmental is above target at this point due to our insurance payments as well as interfund loan payments. We have big insurance payments at the beginning of the year, and then we have an interfund loan between the general fund and the electric fund from a couple years back when the commission decided to pay off some debt. So we did make that loan payment to ourselves, which drove up our budget. Overall, your general fund expenditures are at 29.5%. That's not including encumbrances, so it does not include open POs. With open POs, we're about 40%. This time last year, we were at 31% spent, so we're a little bit below where we were last year. In your year-to-date expenses versus budget, this gives you the same information as before, but it shows you a different way of looking at how much each department has spent of their budget. Again, most departments are right on track at about a third of their budget spent. This is a new slide I thought I would add in here. It's our general fund cash balances. It shows how much cash we've had in the general fund for the last year. As you can see, we start the end of the year pretty high. We get all those tax revenues, and then we dwindle them down through the rest of the year. The orange line is your revenues. Your teal turquoise line is your expenses. So you can use, as you can see, most of the year expenses are higher than revenues, but December, November, they tend to be pretty inverted. In your other governmental funds, we've dwindled these down quite a bit. We don't have Diamond Sports Park or capital improvement or debt service funds anymore, so we pretty much just have the Wild Spaces Fund. We're right on track with our Wild Spaces collections, a little bit low from that 33%, but sales tax tends to pick up in the end of the year. We start seeing more tourism, people spending more money, and we get some more revenues. In your electric fund, we are performing pretty much right on track. We're a little bit low in sales, but we expect that at this point of the year as most of our electric sales come into summertime. We do have a net operating income, an operating income right now of about $50,000. But once you take into account how much we've spent in capital outlay, we're actually at a net loss of $13,000, which is part of the commission's budget. We did plan to spend revenues over expenditures on capital assets. And then just so the commission knows, we have so far this year opened 130 new accounts and installed 50 new electric services. So we are seeing growth in our utilities. In your water and wastewater fund, again, right on track. Water sales are a little bit high. We anticipate those will continue to be high again. Summer is the high usage point. So if we're high in the winter, we'll actually see some higher usage in the summer. We've had 54 water connections so far this year. In our water fund, we've made a profit of $1,200, so that's cool. In your wastewater fund, we're $30,000 with the revenues under expenditures, so we're in the red by $30,000. Again, we anticipate that at this point of the year, as we see more consumption this summer, that number will shore up, and any surplus from the water fund will help offset the loss in the wastewater fund.
That water revenue in the red. So $1,200, don't flippantly say that's cool. That's, that's close to breaking even, which is right where this board wants to be.
That is good. Yes, sir. Long-term debt. This is the City Commission's current long-term debt. I know it's really tiny up there. At the beginning of this fiscal year, had about $2.5 million in long-term debt. We made a payment in February. We'll make another payment this week. Then we have a September and an August payment due. Both of those long-term debts are related to your water and wastewater system expansions. I do not have a budget amendment for you tonight, as we do not need one. So if the commission has any questions.
Commission, any questions on the budget update? Okay. Hearing none, does the public have any questions on the budget update? Hearing none, thank you, Dallas, wonderful job. Okay, that'll move us to agenda item, which is first item 12, authorize submission of United States Department of Agriculture application resolution 2020-10. Mr. Manager or Mr. Thomas, either one, take it away.
If I may read the resolution.
You surely
title in,
can.
Mr.
Go
Mayor.
right ahead.
Thank you. Resolution number 2020-10, a resolution of the City of Newberry, Florida, authorizing the city manager to make application to the United States Department of Agriculture for an Agriculture Innovation Center grant, repealing all resolutions in conflict and providing an effective date.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't actually have a presentation on this, but I just briefly go over the program. The USDA has provided a grant opportunity to start an agricultural innovation center or centers around the country. It's a competitive process, and the State Department of Agriculture approached the City of Newberry and invited us to apply for this grant opportunity.
Sounds like they made this grant for us specifically.
It would be perfect.
Tailor-made.
Especially if we had that ag center up and running, but
Yes.
we'll get there. Could this be a component of that and be the seed that gets the whole thing really rolling is what our hope is. And so in a nutshell, the grant application that the City of Newberry has prepared or is in the process of finalizing is for $500,000. There is a match requirement inside the grant application. However, the grant application match funds will not come from the City of Newberry. It'd be from agricultural industry and potentially other government sources, perhaps the state. And so just want to make sure everybody understands that by authorizing the grant application, you in no way encumber city funds or taxpayer funds as part of the matching funds for the application.
It's my favorite kind of grant.
Yes, sir. And so also, unfortunately, it can't be used for construction. So we can't use it for any of the construction needs on the Ag Tech Park. However, it does pay for things like professional research, faculty services. It can be used for consulting. It can be used for rent, and so and then also too for small grants to the actual agricultural producers out there that it's supposed to benefit. And so that's the real crux of the grant, is to create a center that then can take innovations from the agricultural technology industry and apply them to the agricultural community where they can make more money and have a higher value-added return on their agricultural investments.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Thomas, our manager? Okay. Hearing none, are you ready to make a motion?
Move to approve resolution 2020.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Farnsworth, a second from Commissioner McKinley. Any questions or comments from the dais on the motion on the floor to authorize staff to submit a USDA Agricultural Innovation Center grant application? Hearing none, any public questions on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, roll call. Commissioner Coleman?
Aye.
Commissioner McKinley? Aye. Commissioner Farnsworth? Aye. Commissioner Martin? Commissioner Norfleet? Motion passes 4-1. And we are on to proposed property sale to city by Robert Wigglesworth. Mr. Manager, are you taking that
Yes, sir.
one?
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, I will. Mr. Mayor, we received some correspondence from a gentleman. His name's Robert Wigglesworth. It's been a few months ago. It took us a little time to do some research. He had acquired 2 parcels in Newberry through a tax deed sale. The parcels are down Northwest 1st Avenue and at Northwest 260th Street. One is actually a street just south of the railroad right-of-way, or the abandoned railroad right-of-way. The other one is what used to be a street. Now it'd be classified as a lot. It's in between several other lots that the city owns. Both of these were originally platted as public right-of-way. Sometime historically in the 70s, the county issued tax certificates to a local business person who paid tax on them, the $15, $20, $30 a year for a number of years, and then that they stopped. And so these public right-of-ways which are erroneously considered parcels at some point, went back up for sale. The tax deeds did, and Mr. Wigglesworth purchased them. And then Mr. Wigglesworth he has about 60 years worth of a surveying experience in Alachua County. He kind of invented survey, at least in this part of the country. He met with us, and he identified these two parcels as probably needing to come into the public inventory. So he approached us and said, hey, would you like to acquire them for what I've got into them plus a fee for my time? So we spent some time, we sent it over to the city attorney's office asking for that. One functions as a road now. One of those parcels does. The second one is bound on all sides by city property. I'll show you what the original plat looked like. So the highlighted areas there show original roads. And then in the 1970s, someone purchased them, and the county identified them as properties. So I think there was an error way back when, but for a total investment of $3,900, we think we can clear it up. I think one of the issues potentially affecting both of them is the twin pairs. And I don't think that it would have a tremendous negative impact, but the state of Florida, the twin pairs would go right through the one that is currently 260th Street and would run adjacent to the one that is just north of Northwest 1st Avenue. Mr. Wigglesworth indicated that he had already been contacted by a real estate attorney that wants to represent all the property owners there when DOT begins negotiating with them for acquisition of property rights. And he told the guy, I'm not interested. I'm intending to transmit those to the city. So if it come to the city, it will be two less parcels that the state of Florida has to deal with whenever they're doing their land rights for the Twin Pairs project. So that's kind of the backstory. The city attorney's office, we had a conference with Dave Wagner and Clay Martin, who's kind of their real estate specialist. They did the title search on it. The title search allowed us to kind of tell you that story, how we got there. There is some sentiment that, well, one's used as a public road and the other one really can't be used for any other purpose. So should the city pay for them at all, or just ignore it and continue to use them because the public might have some claim to rights? And the sentiment from both from staff and from the city attorney's offices is that we could, but we could also wind up in litigation over it. People have litigated over less. This allows us for a nominal amount of money to clean this up and make sure that we have those property rights the way they're supposed to be, that the city is the owner of this road and this full triangle piece that you can see there as the second parcel. So that concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to address it. The recommended action, just to cover that, is to authorize the city manager to purchase properties offered for sale and execute all documents necessary to complete the transaction.
Questions from the dais? Commissioner Farnsworth.
So if we purchase it now, and then the state of Florida comes through, will they purchase it back from us, or?
No, sir, Mr. Mayor, we will, the state of Florida, when they come through, they intend for us to dedicate Northwest 1st Avenue and that portion of 260th Street to them to construct the Twin Pairs. So I think the city has an opportunity to get some benefit from FDOT when we do that, because that road will have benefit. But, you know, they also recognize that the Twin Pairs project has benefit to our community. So it'll be a bit of a negotiation, but it won't be a cash exchange. We would have conversations about would the project cover the cost of our utility relocation or enhancements? Would the cost cover the cost of our electric system enhancements? Parking improvements, will you be making parking improvements on city property and on all the side streets, which are not in DOT's purview, but would we likely expect them to be part of the project, you can remember that all the what we call the ladder rungs between current State Road 26 and First Avenue, more than half of them, the state intends to improve and put parking adjacent to them. Staff's intention is to ask them to improve all of those in-between ladder rung streets to provide new pavement service, new sidewalks, and parking as part of the negotiation between us and the state.
Also, remember the FDOT has at least intimated they have to acquire the cold storage building, and they've at least intimated that they're willing to bear the cost of the demolition, putting parking, and then their willingness to convey it over to the city. So I think so far we have a pretty good working relationship with FDOT on this. And for those of you who've been here since the beginning, remember their very first proposal was a straight shot, 2 lanes, no sidewalks, no curb and gutter, no landscaping. It was just a 1.5 mile stretch of, now it is a kind of a nice gentle curve, sidewalks, curb and gutter. There's some landscaping. There's those little endless. So just as a reminder of the type of partnership that they have been in this process.
And Mr. Mayor, I'd also just point out that the construction estimate for that first project was a little less than $2 million. The construction estimate for what they're proposing today is pushing $30 million. And it's not our infrastructure, but anytime you get a $30 million investment in your downtown infrastructure, that's a shot in the arm.
Other questions? Will you finish, Commissioner Farnsworth? Commissioner Norfleet.
Are you aware of any other streets, improved streets that may be conflicted like that?
No, sir, I'm not. Some years ago, maybe 4 years ago, the commission asked about, hey, Mike, would you go find all the city properties that we have and identify which ones we might could liquidate? And we found that not all the streets that have been dedicated to the city were dedicated via plat. Some are parcels those have been conveyed to us. Also, a lot of these unimproved dirt roads that we do a lot of complaining about, and the Norfleet's own property adjacent to them, there's no clear ownership on those. Typically, the city has prescriptive rights to maintain those roads, and so what we maintain essentially from ditch to ditch, the public has rights to, but we don't have clear title on those. And if we go to make an improvement, that staff will recommend that be part of it, is that the city acquire a 50-foot clear right-of-way in exchange for any improvements that we're proposing for those roadway segments.
Any other questions or comments? Commissioner Martin?
I had actually looked up the purchase. The gentleman had purchased them in July for $1,800. So I thought the $3,900 was a little bit high on the ask, but I just want to make sure you guys are aware of that if you hadn't looked it up yourself.
And that's accurate in between, since he expected us to turn it around in a week, but it caught us off guard. We hadn't really dealt with somebody that walks up with a deed to a public road and says, hey, I want to sell you your road back. He's paid $100 in taxes since then, so his total investment's about $1,900 now, and his ask is $3,950.
Any other questions or comments from the dais? If not, I'll entertain a motion on the authorization to authorize city manager to purchase properties offered for sale and execute all documents necessary to complete the transaction. One more question? All right, Commissioner Martin.
So the $3,900 is his ask, right?
Correct.
So, and you didn't counter or anything like that, right?
Mr. Mayor, I did not push too hard. That was part of a conversation. Felt that, at this stage of the game, we all agreed that if it was a $40,000 ask, or if someone really tried to hang the city up, that would have been a different response. But we determined that his 20 years experience in government kind of gave him insights as to what a pain threshold might be, and that anything under 5,000 for the amount of staff time we had in it probably just wasn't worth arguing too hard about.
Okay, so I'll reiterate, if there are no further questions or comments, I'll entertain A motion about authorizing city manager to purchase properties offered for sale and execute all documents necessary to complete the transaction. I have a motion from Commissioner Norfleet. I have a second from Commissioner Farnsworth. Questions or comments on the motion on the floor? Commissioner Coleman.
Capitalism at its best. You can't beat the old guy. That's pretty good.
I mean, I would say by the time we have staff time and legal work out negotiating, whatever we save will be eaten up somewhere else. So, I mean, I think he has asked for just the right amount of money to make it just sort of fly over everybody's radar. Any other questions from the dais on the motion on the floor? Questions from the public on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. And that brings us to comments. City Manager, you ready to you need a second?
Mr. Mayor, I am. Just a quick update on a couple of issues. The 8 smaller cities that are not Gainesville or Alachua County met today to talk about local option fuel tax. And it's going to be not a short process, but I was very encouraged that all in attendance agreed on next steps. So we seem to have a consensus that the 8 of us have a certain tact that we want to use to approach negotiating loft, and I think that's very encouraging because I've been working around loft for about 30 months, and I've never seen the 8 small cities even be close to have an agreement. So the consensus is that we've analyzed it a lot. There was a lot of chuckles about how many iterations that the city of Newberry had done to slice and dice the data to see if there was a better way. But they agreed that this is our tack moving forward, and I think that over the next few months we'll have a proposal that before the commission for what we would do moving forward that I think is going to be probably revenue neutral, but at least case no more than less than 5% reduction from what we've been planning to get, which is way better than any of the other alternatives out there. If you'll remember, we made a 100% increase through the last local option fuel tax. We went from garnering $150,000 a year to a level of $300,000 a year. Now we had a step-in process to get there, but it was a significant move forward, and we also agreed on a methodology so that moving into the future, we felt comfortable that Newberry wouldn't, go 30 years where they're getting half to a third of the revenues they need. So just to report on that, report favorably that meeting number 1 went very well. Reminder to the commission that we have a solid waste MSBU workshop at our next meeting, which is on March the 26th. That workshop begins at 6 p.m. Depending on what we hear from the commission on that, we would be ready to bring back an ordinance opting in or opting out of the MSBU in future years. Commission's choice on that. And then just a reminder to the commission and the community, in case you haven't heard, the city of Newberry is conducting its 4th annual Westfest Music Festival on April the 18th. Music begins at 3 p.m. When I say in case you haven't heard, a lot of people tell me they haven't heard about this thing, but Dallas gave me our social media data today, and our views and our reaches, our touches, as they talk about in social media lingo, exceeds any that we've ever had in previous years. We've caught quite the buzz with the venue that we're allowed to use, a one-time use at the Mines here west of town, and our headliner being Sister Hazel. People are very excited about the 125th year celebration and the laser light show. So looking forward to a very exciting event.
Mr. Manager, one of the reasons why I think we're having trouble getting it out is because these mugs that we have don't have that West Fest sticker on them. Imagine all the free advertising we would get. So maybe we can find some of those.
Maybe we can.
All right, does that conclude your comments?
That concludes my comments, Mr.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Attorney?
I have nothing, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk?
I have nothing, but I do want to thank you for the election update.
Absolutely. Thank you, ma'am. And that moves us to the commission. Commissioner Coleman?
Actually, I just got a question. If the county decides on this paper straw thing, Are we gonna be able to opt out?
We're not involved. That just applies to unincorporated Alachua County. So we don't even have to opt out. We don't have to, no action is required.
Cool, all right, thank you.
Is that it?
That's it.
Commissioner McKinley?
The only thing I wanted to mention was an opportunity for a meet and greet for Ryan Chamberlain. He is a Republican that's running for Congress for U.S. Representative for Florida District 3, which is the seat that Ted Yoho is vacating. Ryan is going to be at the Blend Coffee Shop on March the 24th from 6:30 to 8 p.m. Ryan's a good guy, a good friend of mine, and I'm just excited for people to meet him.
All right, awesome. That concludes your comment, Commissioner? All right, thank you. Commissioner Farnsworth. Commissioner Martin?
I just wanted to thank the congregation at Jonesville Baptist Church. On Saturday, they offered their venue for a parishioner of our church at Destiny Community who had passed away, Kelly Wyckoff. And as Pastor Rocky had mentioned that day, Corey came right out of the gate. Pastor Corey came right out of the gate offering his a church for us to have her memorial service. It was a wonderful service. If you weren't able to attend, and it's just a perfect thing of what I love about this community. When something happens, everybody can have an opportunity to pitch in. So a very deep, heartfelt thank you to not only Pastor Corey, but several members of his church that helped with parking and all kinds of stuff. So thank you very much. I'm sure that the family was very appreciative.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Norfleet? I actually wanted to piggyback on that because I was talking with Commissioner McKinley before the meeting, and that, that's the second time in recent memory where our churches have come together. And when we experience a tragedy or loss, we put aside differences, not that we have a whole lot anyway, but we come together and we just make sure that the families have what they need. So I appreciate Jonesville Baptist Church. I appreciate the First Baptist Church doing that before. So it just makes me proud of the city when I see that happen. I want to remind everybody that the County Charter Review Commission is meeting this Wednesday at 5:30. There's lots of things that they are considering that we need to stay on top of. Some we might want to advocate for. Many we probably want to advocate against. I'll be there this Wednesday again. Anybody who wants to attend, you're welcome to come along, and I'll show you the ropes. On April 4th, the Concerned Citizens of Newberry have organized an event to commemorate the victims of lynching here in Newberry. It's a partnership with the Equal Justice Initiative. Newberry is, and the Concerned Citizens are the first group in the state of Florida to organize this type of partnership with EJI in the state. EJI will be here. Representatives from EJI will be here. So we're going to advertise and invite anyone who wants to come and partake of that. It'll be 10:30 in the morning on April 4th at Mama Hunt's Funeral Home, which is right there in Lynch Hammock and Newberry. So it will be a historic moment for our community. I have been meaning to make this request for the last few meetings, but we have a lot of residents who watch our meetings on Cox channel 97, is it 97? And we have not been able to air it on Cox for quite some time. And I think, according to our contract, we have rights there that I'd like to try to assert, because we have a lot, especially some of our older residents, that's their preferred method. So if it's true that they have a contractual obligation to provide that channel, I think we need to enforce that. If they don't have a contractual obligation to provide that channel, we need to renegotiate that contract and see if we can address it. Do you want to address that, Mr. Manager, before I move on?
Mr. Mayor, I would say that I don't know this to the letter. Two things that I can advise you of is between the city and Cox Cable entering that contract, and today the state of Florida passed some regulations that effectively nullified our contract in terms of our ability to regulate them via a franchise agreement. So I would say that currently what we have is more by gentleman's agreement, than our ability to dig our hooks into them and compel them to do something. Doesn't necessarily mean we couldn't make this happen. I think our primary obstacle right now is that we've been, as you recall, we've been threatened with lawsuits about ADA compliance. And Channel 97, as I understand it, is not ADA compliant when we broadcast these like our YouTube videos are. So we need a ADA compliant platform when we broadcast our meetings, and I don't know how difficult it would be to make that happen. We'll investigate it and report back to the commission.
Let's start with that. So let's get our facts and we'll figure that out. On a peripheral note, you know, Verizon has set a timeline of 2020 to get the new tower installed. Could you just follow up? You don't need to follow up right now.
We met last week.
Oh, look at that. We'll follow up right now.
It was the one I left off of here, but I
Yeah.
met with Verizon last week. They had committed to upgrades on 2 towers. They've already completed one. They expect the other one to be done by October.
Is
They're
the
ahead of
first one
schedule.
out at Argos?
The first one, he called the name of the site. I don't believe it was the Argos one, but he showed us maps, and I asked him, can I get copies of your maps and so we can use them on
Yes.
social media? And he said, absolutely not. Those are proprietary. So,
Okay.
so we said, fine, I'll take a mental image and I'll report to the commission that the coverage in the downtown area was extremely better. And I will tell you, I'm still dropping calls out on the North 40, out
Towards High
close to
Springs and Alachua.
Commissioner Martin's house, that I have not dropped a call crossing the railroad tracks or at 8th Avenue in a month and a half since that tower site came online. So it's made a noticeable improvement on Mike News' phone.
Great. Okay. That's wonderful news. Don't ever drop data coverage announcements. Always put those in. Yeah. I got an email from the school. Oh, well, before I get to that, for all of the potential candidates in the room, the Student Government Association of Newberry High School will once again send out invitations to a debate for any contested seats. So if you are a candidate, or you're a potential candidate, you're filling in your paperwork, be sure, I happen to also be the student government sponsor, so you can contact me and I'll get you in touch with the student body president to make sure that you get an invitation to that debate and you have a chance to voice your platform and let folks know what you stand for. I got an email from the school board today discussing the new school that is being built on Parker Road. I'm just going to read it directly so I make sure I get it correct. It says, as you may already know, the school district is building a new elementary school on Southwest 122nd Street, Parker Road, and the plan is to open the school in August of 2021. Before this new school can open, the school board will need to amend the school attendance zones to determine which neighborhoods will be zoned to the new school. We are still very early in this process, and no plans have been drawn or decisions made. However, it is anticipated that rezoning could have an effect on the current zones for Idlewild, Wiles, Childs, Archer, Newberry, Hidden Oak, Terwilliger, and Meadowbrook. The school board will be looking at issues like distance to the school, safe bus routes, walkability, socioeconomic diversity, and general efficiency. The district is seeking your input before district staff start working on a specific plan for the elementary school zones. They want to hear from you. For this purpose, they are scheduling 3 informational sessions at which you can learn more about the process and provide your thoughts to staff. These meetings will be Monday, March 16th at Kanapaha Middle School from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Tuesday, March 31st at Swag Family Resource Center from 4 to 6 p.m. and Wednesday, April 1st at Fort Clark Middle School from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. You'll be able to see all the data that the school has collected and make any suggestions that you want to make, and I'd be happy to repeat those dates for anybody that didn't get them and wants to know, or I'll make sure that that the city has them and they can post them as well. And that concludes my comments, and that brings us to public comment. Hearing none, last chance, we are adjourned.